The homage. Why homage? To whom we are paying homage? And the very concept of homage, I think these are some of the values probably dying now. But being someone who has been brainwashed by Buddhists for so long, for someone like myself, these are so beautiful. India still is resilient in keeping many of these values. I hope all the speed and the speed coming from the technology and all that is not going to shun many of these habits. At the least, the gesture of offering homage indicates the humility with the author. But in this particular case, the stanza of the homage really embodies what is it that we are looking up to. What is our role model? What is it that we are trying to achieve? Because when we pay homage to something that we respect, we value, we appreciate. So we pay homage to all the Tathagatas in layperson's language. Tathagatas are realized being. Realized what? Realized the truth, of course. Now this is a very important matter, especially this day and age, because it's very difficult to identify realized being. There's so many charlatans. And charlatans are very important. It really creates a spice in our life. It creates these sort of challenge to go through things. If every masters and whatever teachers are not charlatan, our path will be very boring, I think. The fake teachers, not realized but pretending to be realized beings, wow, they create color in our life. They are not object of homage, but they definitely need to be appreciated. To me, this stanza tells us so much things. Shantadeva was not just a simple kind of, man who became kind of intoxicated by some spiritual high, feelings. He was a prince. He was a, well-to-do. He belonged to a well-to-do family. The fact that he chose to pay homage to realized being indicates that there are realized beings that we can pay homage to. It's important for us to know that. I think many of us do realize, to the certain extent, if we work hard, we may become as half rich as Bill Gates. We may become as, if we kind of encounter a good plastic surgeon, we may become as awkwardly handsome as Shah Rukh Khan. We may realize this. This is achievable. But in our thinking system, many times, even the seasoned practitioners, there is a sort of inbuilt, there is a sort of somewhere down there, we don't believe in realized being. We don't, because we feel that I've been practicing 10 years, I'm not going anywhere. And then we have a tendency to, because of materialism, we have a tendency to not believe in and appreciate that there is a realized being. It's very difficult. And then the attitude and the manifestation of so-called devotees to a certain realized being are very strange. So that puts you off also. All these people who, with the small symbols, singing Hare Krishna, in streets like London streets, they become a laughing stock for so-called intellectuals, successful, entrepreneurs. What are these guys? There is a lack of appreciation. Our appreciation, our role model has changed. Lack of appreciation towards the realized being. And it is understandable, especially this day and age, very difficult. Because there's so much, our culture, our environment cherishes this very negative critical thinking, not positive critical thinking. Our culture and our, our environment is making us choose, handpick, cherry pick. And of course, there's also human jealousy and human envy. Then we learn to be critical negatively. And these things doesn't help also. Then also, of course, there's many supposedly great beings, but then down the line we find out they are as corrupted, if not worse, than many corrupted people. And those things doesn't matter. So spiritual path, pursuit to the wisdom, path to the wisdom has a big challenge. And the biggest challenge is not being able to get out of the box. Staying in the box makes us really not appreciate the realized being. Anyway, for Shantideva, he seemed to indicate that there is a realized being. Tathagatas, to them he offers homage. And then he offers to, the very interesting, the choice of word. He also offers homage to the Dharma, but specifically Chojiku, the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya aspect of the Dharma. That is very, not the Dharma, the truth, not in the form of scripture or tradition or a doctrine. He's not paying homage to that. He's paying homage to the Dharmakaya, the truth, the body, the embody of the truth. Because only that is undeceiving. We pay homage to an object that is undeceiving. No point of paying homage to something or someone that is temperamental. Something that, like our own, vacuum machine that works for today, but tomorrow it doesn't work. There is no point of trusting that kind of object. Then he pays homage to the bodhisattvas who follows, whose only goal is to actualize this kind of truth, who thrives with this kind of wisdom and compassion. He pays homage to that. And then so that's a homage. And then he makes a pledge. This is again, I think, very Indian thing to do, which of course the Tibetans have now adopted. Pledging. After paying the homage, he pledges to write. Or, by the way, strictly speaking, he pledges to utter or expound these according to the sutras. That again has a hidden meaning behind. Again, showing humility, unlike many of the modern authors who, in actuality, plagiarize everything and then not paying homage to anyone, of course, but somewhere in the preface claims that somewhere along the Californian beach, one day when they were strolling in the sunset, he finds out this amazing truth. And when you read the book, you see all this plagiarization from books like Shantadeva's Bodhicharya Avatara. And then, of course, in the age of marketing and, whatever, this, materialistic age, packaging works so well. Of course, Shantadeva, I would say one thing probably we didn't do well was packaging of the Shantadeva's Bodhicharya Avatara. But whereas the modern authors, they do great packaging and then amazing names such as Power of Now, Power of Future, Power of Past, whatever. Unlike the modern authors, Shantadeva saying that, just as how it was taught by the Buddha, giving credit to the Buddha, I shall expound these teachings. Every sentence, every words of this great man has so many, the direct meaning, the indirect, there's sort of almost like sometimes insinuation. There's a lot of teachings, I believe. Oh, by the way, he expounded, he was made to say this, all these words, supposedly. Maybe it's a good time to say this. There's something interesting here. Shantadeva, like Chandrakirti, was not just a mere scholar. Very important to know. I think in the past, in India, scholars were not that respected. They were appreciated, but they really respected the saint and the scholar together. When they are together, Kedub Niden, we call it, the one who is a saint and scholar, saint or a realized being. Now, if you read, like another guy from from Nalanda University, Chandrakirti, he is so intellectual and academical and analytical, and he is just so ruthless with anything to do with a dogma and theory and so on and so forth. But do you know what he did? When he was asked to provide food for the monastery, meaning he was appointed as the chief of, I think, the kitchen for the whole Nalanda University. So he had to look after some 500 buffaloes. But he let go the buffaloes in the field, and when the time for tea comes, tea, or I don't know what they used to drink at that time, he milked milk from painted cow. Now here we go. See, I'm sure many of you skeptical, intellectual, academical, now begins the usual supernatural, etc. bit. But this is where you have to be careful with your zone. This is where you have to really get out of the zone if you can. And for that, Chandrakirti was loved and venerated, not because he wrote amazing books, not because he refuted even the existence of the Buddha. Those things were already like a passé and cliché in the Nalanda University. I'm telling you, nowadays there are so many, mainly in the West, all these intellectuals who are, they're proud of being very skeptical about ancient wisdom. I'm telling you, the level of skepticism, what they have, is a kindergarten level if you think about Chandrakirti. Chandrakirti is the real skeptic here. But then he showed another aspect, which is, milking from a painted cow. Now, what is that? Is it a magic? No. Of course, for the ordinary sense, it's a magic, but this is what happens when you can not only understand the truth intellectually, but when you can actually realize the truth. Because you have gone out of the box of painted cow cannot be milked. But both you and I have not reached to the level where we can actually appreciate this yet. Anyway, just like Chandrakirti, Shandadeva, our hero here, he was known for being very lazy, and I don't know, he even have a nickname, I don't remember, Busuko or something, someone who sleeps and is lazy. He was like he was one of those sort of goof in the, I don't know, sort of a student who always is kind of sleeping, who's never turn up in the class, I don't know, like something like that. Anyway, to make a mockery out of him, he was forced to teach at some sort of an annual or weekly or monthly seminar to kings and queens and many big dignitaries. And to really make fun of him, they even put a big throne without stairs to climb. And it is believed that for whatever I don't know, nobody knows how he did it, but he certainly was on the top of the throne. And at the amazement of the students in Nalanda and all the other dignitaries and peers and witnesses, he expounded this amazing teaching. And somewhere around the 9th chapter, which if we ever reach, hopefully we do, somewhere, and especially he chose a very correct, this is the word. As much as I find Tibetan way of educating is kind of archaic and, backward, I have to say I appreciate also my teachers who are just so like the Taliban, like the Buddhists, so strict, so, so traditional. I have studied the root text by heart, of course forced by them. And I have to say, I appreciate this now because I do remember that root text. It is not easy. We have to study the root text all by heart. Not only that, we are allowed to sometimes recite backwards to, see whether you have done it properly. And then, sometimes we are even told to ask which page number. So it was, of course, I guess there was nothing much else to do. So there was no Facebook, definitely, at that time. Now would have been impossible. Now would. Anyway, this is the stanza. This is a particular stanza in the 9th chapter where he basically said, that real truth, the shunyata, cannot be uttered and cannot be thought about and cannot be contemplated and cannot be even fathomed or imagined. It is around that point he disappeared from the throne. But his voice was there and he finished the whole chapter. Again, like the Chandrakirti's painted cow incident. Whether we can accept this or not, you can always categorize this as a very religious mambo-jumbo, of course, why not? But anyway, that was supposedly what has happened. And for this, we categorize Chandradeva not only as a scholar of the Nalanda, but he is also considered one of the 80 Mahasiddha, whom we venerate so much. This is something quite nice about Buddhism and especially Mahayana and most especially Vajrayana, I would say. We always have a role model. And usually the role model is like, serene, good looking, gently walking, smiling, probably with a halo, very well educated, well behaving, etc., etc. But you will realize in Buddhism, it's not always like that. There are great beings like Shariputra, whom we also respect. Perfect, morally pure, all of that. But then there's guys like Manjushri, earrings, anklets, probably rings in every finger, not necessarily exuding the image of renouncant, just a layman, beautiful silk garments, according to, Tantric Buddhism, he has consort, Saraswati, and, stuff like that. And then there's an image like Ananda, Kashyapa. There's also, we equally venerate great beings like Telopa, who, if today walk into this room, we might bar him because he smells, because he just doesn't look right. But but we venerate him. This something, why does these things happen? Because we have the rule of not exaggerating on the ultimate level and not underestimating on the relative level. This is why wild guy like Naropa and Telopa is equally an object of veneration to a serene and beautiful looking and very, compassionate and proper and puritanically perfect guys like Ananda. This is the richness. This is the richness of Buddha Dharma. And as Professor Devkar very beautifully put it and recited even the original text, Shantideva said, I have nothing new to say here. I am not well versed in poetic language and, prose and, prose and rhyming and all that. So for this reason, I don't, so humble. I don't promise. I don't have this, I don't want to be arrogant, and I don't want to promise that this is going to be beneficial to sentient beings, other beings. Mainly, I wrote this for my own self-discovery, development, and self-strengthening, for my own virtuous thoughts. I need to get used to these virtuous thoughts. I need to get accustomed to these virtuous thoughts. By writing, by composing, by expounding these words, my devotion towards the right thoughts, good thoughts, special thoughts, can generate this. My devotion can generate these thoughts and strengthen these thoughts. And for this reason, I have written this. But, having said that, there may be people who also share similar kind of mood and similar kind of attitude and similar kind of inquisitive mind. And if they encounter this, it might help them. And it may become beneficial for them. So in these sentences, basically, as we know, there is a humility. At the same time, the author has indicated that he's written this with the aspiration to help other beings. Yet again, another classic Buddhist way of doing things, especially Mahayana Buddhism. I must say, recently I was in Cuba, and it occurred in my head, when I was studying Buddhist philosophy, a different text, it all begins with this kind of thing. It's always a homage, and there's always a pledge, and there's always a few sentences on generating the bodhicitta. Why? An aspiration that this will help. And usually our teachers spend ample time explaining that, even though we have heard this thousands of times before, somehow, especially like my guru,宗薩仁波切, if there's an hour of teaching time, I would say half an hour will be just that. And then the actual teaching. It was going on and on about how the teaching Even, for instance, like this teaching, we are supposed to, the teacher like myself in this case, should really do it with the aspiration that it will help beings like you, related to you, connected to you, one way or another. Even the listener, like yourself. Of course, there are people who just want to finish their dissertation. That may be their primary motivation. There may be some people who are just curious. Of course, you are all very welcome. But main aspiration to hear this teaching should be so that you, one way or another, we can benefit sentient beings. And I think, I used to think this is so, repetitious. I hear this again and again, and I read this again and again in every Buddhist books. But this time when I was in Cuba, I realized, I don't know, a thought occurred in my head. Great beings like Plato, Karl Marx, they wrote lots of books. They taught a lot. But maybe, I don't know, who am I to judge? But maybe their aspiration to benefit all sentient beings may be not there. So this is why the words of Karl Marx, even though it was really well intended, I think so, really, it's for the good of human beings. But it has created so much bloodshed, so much problem. And I think like Plato's, democracy, even today, in the name of democracy, how many people are killing each other? And it must be because of Shantideva's amazing aspiration so far. Shantideva's words have not really created bloodshed. I think the aspiration is utmost important. Because when you have that, and it's not also limited, narrow-minded aspiration, like it's to help humankind or to help few crows or few frogs. It's like the all beings, impartial, great, grand motivation. Just my thoughts. Okay, then we begin with text. So, we begin with Shantideva giving us warning that we have this precious human body. What does this mean, precious human body? The ability to differentiate what is virtue and what is not virtue, much better than many, many other beings. I think basically that's what it is. Human beings might have much more than anyone else. And this we have obtained. We have it. But this precious human body, this precious human ability is not easy to obtain. Having obtained, it is also not It's not unbreakable. It's so fragile. This human ability, this human existence can vanish within a moment. Everything that we have that are supposedly to strengthen this human body, such as medicine, can be the cause of the extinction of this human body. On top of that, everything, basically everything that we can think of, can be the cause of the death of this human body. Okay, here I need to clarify something. Why human body is so important? Let's again go back to the 9th chapter. It is the wisdom, because only within the human realm you have more chance to understand, comprehend, and the ability to actually contemplate and meditate and actualize the wisdom. That's why. There's a lengthy explanation in the commentary which I'm not going to go through. Even the gods, even the asuras, they might be mightier in strength and in wealth, but for someone who is seeking the truth, for someone who is looking for the truth, gold and silver and diamond is nothing. Might is nothing. So I just want to put this out. We are not talking about human chauvinism here. Of course, as beings, we are all equal. Between an ant and a human being, there's no difference. But the difference here is made because in reference to having the ability to understand the truth. Even the gods doesn't seem to have as much, because so much distraction, so much enjoyment, so much entertainment, so much material ability. Because we human beings seem to live right next to the suffering, even though we may have wealth and health and ability, we do also any minute, right next door or right there, right in front of you, there's a suffering. So there's a really good chance to understand the truth. Really good chance. And this is why Shantideva is saying, we do have this chance to understand the truth. Let's not waste it. Because this chance is so rare. Let's go through one more stanza, which is very, very, very important stanza, the next stanza. Quote it again and again in many, many other Mahayana Shastras. Okay, I'm now going to use one Buddhist jargon, which I guess we might as well get used to it, which is the bodhicitta, which many of you know. So I've explained this morning, bodhicitta, this special mind, special thought, changchupji sem, special thought, special mind, enlightened mind, whatever you call it, the ingredient of this mind is basically not only love and compassion and kindness, but also understanding of the truth. That's what makes the body, that's how a mind becomes a bodhicitta. Someone who possesses that kind of bodhicitta is called bodhisattva. Now, then this indicates something. Okay, so can we sort of join the club? Can we become that warrior? How about, if I want to be the warrior, if I want to be that courageous bodhisattva, can I? That's the question. Okay, so we are now in the, the drafting agency. Here is a desk. You want to be recruited. So then we need to write it down, right? What kind of feet you have, flat or Apparently, if you have flat foot, then you can't join army. Do you know that? And if you have, I guess, no fingers, you can't. So we have to go through the criteria. Are you healthy? Are you blind? Are you deaf? Are you this criteria to join this army? So what do you need? What do we need? And this is the Shantadeva's answer. 지터세모 민음 롱지 깨지라노 때문에 대신 선지 투이점 지든 손놈으로 당가주 대대기 변임. He doesn't care whether you have flat foot or not. He doesn't care whether you are deaf or mute or whatever. He doesn't. All you need, and not even all the time, all you need is an experience of having had a kindness at one time, somewhere in your life. That's all you need. Now this is the commentary is quite long and it's really, it's a big issue. And let me approach this intellectually here, since we also have academic students. There's a question you can ask. But isn't there some people like Hitler who may never ever have kindness in his life, which is actually hypothetical, right? It's not really true, but we do say, there are some really bad guys out there who can't have kindness. According to the Mahayana Buddhists, it's impossible. That this is typical Mahayana and typical twisted Indian mind, I should say. So twisted, the Indian mind. This is how they say. If you know how to harm other beings, okay, so I'm recruiting, let's say I'm the Bodhisattva drafting agency, and I'm now, okay, you want to be a Bodhisattva? So my question is, do you know how to harm other beings? Yes. At least you know how to punch somebody. You know that this will create pain in someone else, right? That's why you punch. That's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. That qualifies you to join in this army. Why? This is the twisted thing. Because anyone who knows how to harm someone must mean that they know that when it happens to themselves, they don't like it. And that can be used as a foundation and a ground to develop compassion and kindness. This is all you need. No excuses, basically. No excuses. Even if there is a forced drafting, usually you can sort of go to a doctor and get a fake certificate saying that you have something wrong in your lung or something, but here, no excuses. Everyone have every being has what makes the bodhisattva. Ingredient, that's fundamental ingredient. And then, but here in this stanza though, more explicitly, he said that everyone, once in a blue moon, we do have kindness. Even the most vicious ones. And he gave a really amazing, beautiful example of in the pitch dark, lightning. When the lightning comes, momentarily there is a light in the dark. Likewise, yes, we have so much hatred, so much jealousy, anger, pride, envy, all sorts of emotion. But we do also have, at times, unconditional feeling. And that is now there's one element of this stanza. He tributes this to the blessing of the Buddha. Now, suddenly, he talks like a, theistic almost, right? Like this goodness also comes from the Buddha's blessing. So, for some of you, it might be, what is this? Are we now believing in Buddha as God? This question, I want to hang it for next 2 years, and when we reach to the chapter 8, if I remember to solve this puzzle, I will then explain to you this puzzle. Why so? So, please, somebody jot it down and remind me. Okay, here I will stop and let you ask some questions. Just 5, maybe like 6 minutes, and then we go for lunch, is it? Yeah.
Rinpoche, just a quick question on the 2 truths you mentioned, on exaggeration, underestimation. Aren't they both also based on perception? So they're not really... So how can you have exaggeration in an ultimate sense Because that's also based on...
Oh yes, perception, everything. You are right, yes.
So how can you use that to sort of understand the truth?
Okay, very good, really good. Now this is a big deal. Okay. I will now quote a great Nyingmapa. This is a Tibetan scholar. He said, if you lost your cow, obviously you will not see the cow. Because if you search, if you need to search for the cow, you will not see the cow. So you have to look at, but yet you have to search for something. For the cow, right? So the only clue is the footsteps, let's say. But the footsteps is not cow. Perception is the only method to look at the wisdom. This is because of the lack of method. But the footprints of the hoof is quite viable. I mean, it's quite trustable method.
Thank you.
It's very, it is a person. Actually, during the 9th chapter, there is an argument with two Mahayana school. The two Mahayana school, Chittamata, or the mind-only school, and Madhyamika, which is the supposedly Shantideva belonged to. There is an argument between Madhyamika school and the Chittamatan school. The Chittamatan school believes in, well, I don't know whether they voluntarily believes, but by consequence, they believe that there is a true perceiver. So they believe in perceiver, which Madhyamika also, they don't agree. So, okay, make it very simple. Wisdom is not a perceiver. Okay?
You are using two terms. One is conventional and other one is the ultimate.
Can you repeat again?
You are using two types of truth.
Right.
One is conventional and other is ultimate.
Yes.
Samuti Satya and Paramarth Satya.
Mm-hmm.
Why even the conventional is called truth? Even that is not truth.
Right. Yes. Yeah. There's a classic question. For the time being, the answer is very long, but for the time being, because it's temporarily giving you some benefit. That's why. For instance, like, it's like if you are having a nightmare of a snake, the snake is doing the job. You understand what I'm saying? Even though it does not exist, it's doing the job of scaring you. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. I have to save things, otherwise I will run out of things to say. This is very long.
Rinpoche, I have a question for you. We spoke about paying homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Am I audible? Okay. We spoke about paying homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. My question is, can we not just pay homage to compassion, which is the heart essence and core of all realized beings, and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas?
Yes, but that's exactly what Chandrakirti did in his Madhyamika Avatara. Yeah, same thing actually. It's the same thing.
Rinpoche, you spoke about the preciousness of being born in the human body, because
Preciousness of?
born in the human body,
Right.
because that's the way we are in the midst of suffering and understand the truth of suffering. But human beings are not only objects of suffering; they also create suffering for other human beings and other sentient beings. So how does Buddhism account for this suffering which human beings create in the world?
Oh, yeah. Human beings definitely are ignorant and they create so much suffering, of course. No argument on that one. We are talking about, okay, maybe I should have explained this. There's supposedly many species and, like gods and asuras and animals and, ghosts, so many worlds. Among these, more likely chance to understand the truth, higher chance with human beings. Because I think human beings have, okay, let me just explain this a little bit. Human beings have this call it ignorance, call it a burden, but kind of useful thing called morality. Does it make sense? Human beings, like cats. After a few months, they begin to marry they begin to copulate with their own sister and brother. They don't think like this kind of thing. Mothers eat their own children. Yeah? So the morality is kind of something. Okay, then how do we define that morality? Morality is something, some sort of a common sense that makes a group of people livable. Am I making sense? Yeah, it's just that. It's not a wisdom. You will hear this later. In Buddhism, morality is lesser than wisdom. Morality with the wisdom is perfect. But morality without the wisdom is a pain in the neck. That is really bad. It will create so much problem. Okay, SP, what's cooking in your head?
Thank you. You put morality as one of the factors, but isn't there something little more than that? I mean, wouldn't morality be part of what we call a self-reflective consciousness?
Yes.
In that a cat doesn't ask, who am I? What is this consciousness?
Yeah.
But only human beings have that ability.
Yes.
And because we have that, then we have morality. Because am I doing the right thing? Or should this person be doing this or the other thing?
Yeah. And many other factors. I was just quoting a few. Things like, we have an address. That helps to understand the truth, by the way. You may be surprised. I mean, especially in the beginning. You know, the animals don't have address. They're completely in panic. Okay, when is the next dinner? Where? How? Where is the time for the truth? Who is going to eat me before I eat someone else? So all that. At least we have a key, a door. You can we have some sort of a door. I mean, well, I don't know. A lot of us. I mean, this is a big thing. You know, there are certain human beings who are carrying AK-47. You know, growing up with the AK-47, probably in about 10-20 years, they might be even born with AK-47 rifles, the way it is manifesting in the world right now. Yeah, we have to also define the word precious human body. In that case, we would consider them as just human, not precious human body. They have no opportunity, no time, no luxury, or no space to even think about it.